Hey loves, and welcome to another sewing tutorial. In this video, as you can already see on the screen, I'll be making this beautiful halter neck maxi dress. It has two tiers, and also the upper part goes down to the hip line. So this is a very easy tutorial, so I hope you can follow and make one for yourself. So to begin, I traced out my basic bodice block onto a pattern paper and then cut it out. Once that was done, I went ahead and marked in my bust cycle. This is not a must for this particular pattern, but I just want to put it in so I know how much of my is going to be covered. So it's just to serve as a guide. So from there, I marked in my seam allowance. It's already on my sloper, so I'm just marking it out here so that I know the area I'm going to work with. So from the armhole, I went down 1 inch, and I also slashed one side of the waist dart. From there, I went and closed the shoulder dart to open up the waist dart. Once the shoulder dart has been closed, I went down the neckline 1 inch, and also on the shoulder 1 inch, and then join the marks to form the neck curve. Also at the armhole, I went in 1.5. I marked 1 in the beginning, but I thought I wanted to go in a little bit more, so I marked 1.5 inches, and then join the curve. I drew in a new armhole curve to the neckline where the 1 inch mark is. I also went down another 1/2 inch and then joined it to the neckline curve. Once that was done, I went ahead and cut out the unwanted areas of the pattern and drew a line from the center of the neckline to the point of the waist dart. From there, I slashed through the line to the point and also cut out the waist dart. Once the waist dart has been cut, I separated the pattern into two, and then I did grab another pattern paper and then marked a horizontal line to serve as the bust line. So once that has been marked, I put on my patterns, aligning the bust line to the line on the new pattern paper. So this is how it should look, and then I went on to mark my neckline. Once that has been done, I went ahead and extended the waistline about 9 to 10 inches to the hip, because the upper part of the dress doesn't end at the waist, it goes down to the hip. So once I marked that, I added also 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then cut out the unwanted parts. For the neckline, I added 1 inch in the beginning, but don't do that. I thought I was going to just fold in and then put in straps, but then I changed my mind. So I later on just marked 1/4 inch for the neckline seam allowance. So this is the pattern for the upper part of the dress. As you can see, just marking in the 1/4 inch neckline allowance, as I said earlier on. So if you added 1 inch from the beginning, please correct it. The total length from the shoulder to the hip is 27 plus ½ inch allowance, and the hip is 13 inches, so times 4 is 52, and my correct hip measurement is 41 inches. So you can see there is enough space to move around, and this will depend on you. It depends how free you want the dress to be. So it's not like fixed mathematics here. So at this point, I laid the pattern on the fabric, and as you can see, I'm cutting it out, and I'll be cutting 2 of this pattern. And for the tier, I have done like a lot of tutorials on it, so I believe you already know how to make that. So that also will depend on what you are looking for. So it doesn't have to be exactly like mine. It will depend on how long you want the dress to be, and also how many fullness you want in the tiers. So these are my tiers, and I wanted my dress to be super maxi, so I cut as long as I wanted, and then 2 for the first tier and then 2 for the last tier. So 1 for the front and 1 for the back with the same measurements. Begin with stitching. I started with the tiers. I made gather stitches on all of the pieces, and once that was done, I went ahead and pulled in the stitches to form the gathers. So once that is done, I went ahead and attached the first tier to the bottom part of the top piece of the dress, and then pinned it up. And then the same way, I attached the last piece of the tier to the first tier. Once everything has been done and pinned, I took it to the sewing machine and stitched them. And then I used my serger to finish all the raw edges before joining the sides together. And I also went ahead and cut straps, bias straps, to finish the armhole of the dress before stitching the sides together as well. So I believe a lot of you know how to attach bias strap or finish the do finishing with the bias strap. So I'm not going to say a lot also about that. So this is how it should look once it has been stitched. And what I'm going to do now is to attach the front and the back pieces together and make sure the seams are matching. Once that has been done, I run some gather stitches at the neckline of the dress and then pull in the stitches to form gathers. So I did that for both the front and the back, and I want to remind you that even though I use the same pattern piece to cut the back, make sure you raise the back neck a little bit so it doesn't hang. Okay, neckband, I folded the pattern diagonally so that I get the stretch, and I made sure that the total length of the neckband is 1.5. So I cut the fabric 4 inches and then folded it in half plus allowance. So the end, at the end, I would have 1.5 inches long. And for the width, you can cut it as long as you want, depending on how much fabric you have. So I went ahead and attached an interfacing into the fabric because I wanted it to be a bit firm. I'm using the viscose fabric, which is a bit flimsy and airy, and the length measures 6.5 inches after the gather. So you can always put it on and try it on if the length is okay, the width is okay for you, if it's not too tight or too loose on your neck. So once that is done, I folded my neckband in half and measured 2 inches, but I will recommend 1.5 inches because I came back again to measure 1.5. So please measure 1.5. Like I said, you can always try it on to see if it's okay for you. So yeah, I went ahead and pin it from the 1.5 2 inches mark. So I'll be using the stitch in a ditch method to fix the neck band. So if you already know how to do that, great. So right now I'm pinning everything up, and then once that is done, I would go to the sewing machine and then stitch it and then flip it on the other side, fold it in, and then stitch in the already stitched hole, if that is the best way to explain it. Like you see, I'm showing you. So this is how it looks once the neck band has been fixed. Like I said, I use the stitch in a ditch method, so if you don't know how to do it, please, there is a lot of tutorials on YouTube for that, and I have done that a lot on my channel. And I went ahead to use my serger to serge all the raw edges, the side seam, and also the hem of the dress, and then stitched it as well. I also made a sash or a belt for the waistline, and this is the end of the tutorial. Let's see how it looks on. So this is me in this maxi dress. I really love it, especially the fabric, the color. It's so rich, just that my camera is not doing justice to the video, but yeah, I love it. And